So last time we looked at PlayStation's mascot for the PS1, Crash Bandicoot. But as Crash's time on the console was closing, a new game was released at the tail end to steal the show. Get it? It's Spyro. We're talking about Spyro today. Created by Insomniac Games, Spyro was meant to be another mascot for the PlayStation. Suggested to them when the first game for the PS1 they made, Disruptor, was...
You don't have the brain power to outmaneuver a few droids with attitude. I never forgive myself for sending you on a real mission. Just remember, think fast, shoot fast, and kick ass.
amazing. So after some time tinkering, they developed a new platforming game released in 1998, and that would be Spyro the Dragon. Now, personally, I've always been more of a Crash fan, and Spyro has just been kind of there to me. I mean, obviously I like Spyro, I make an old video about him, but I'd say with Crash, there are more games that I like. Not that, I'd say that they're good, but I like them. Spyro though, yes, there are some games I consider to be the greatest of all time. A majority of his games to me though range from alright to what the fuck? Spyro 1 is one of those alright games to me. Like Crash, I don't really care about the plots to these games. I do think this one is kind of funny. The villain, Gnasty Gnorc, banished from the Dragon Realms, uses a spell to turn all the dragons to crystal, but Spyro manages to avoid the spell because he's so small, so he has to save the day. Yeah, Spyro is the OG Short King. Despite the game being 2 decades old, I still think Spyro controls pretty well. He can do more than most other platforming protagonists. While he can jump, he can also glide short distances, charge around, and of course breathe fire. All it feels pretty nice to control, especially charging around and collecting and killing everything. When you rescue a dragon, most of the time they give you hints on how to play the game, and I think this is a great way to progress and help the player at the same time.
Thank you for releasing me!
Except for that guy. Also, collecting shit in this game is just so satisfying. Opening one of these chests and getting a bunch of gems as a reward just feels so good. Now these gems aren't like the ones you find in Crash. Here there's tons of them, thousands actually, scattered around for you to get. To help you get them, you have Sparks the Dragonfly, this little guy flying around Spyro. Not only does he collect gems from a distance, but he also acts as your health, changing colors to represent how many hits you have left. And take too many hits and you sadly have to walk around and actually touch them like a bitch. Obviously with the dragons giving hints, there's quite a lot of voice acting in this game. It's not great, but it's not really bad. It's not like Resident Evil levels of cheese. I find it charming enough though. Also, fun fact, Spyro in this game is voiced by the same guy who voiced Rocco in Rocco's Modern Life.
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro. Free 10 dragons in the artisan world. Then find the balloonist. He'll transport you to the next world.
Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby.
But yeah, of course, I don't like everything about this game. Like for one, the levels, they're so boring to look at. Nothing makes them stand out to me. It's just a bunch of colored polygons along a JPEG background. I think the one most people remember is the treetops level, mostly because of how bullshit it is. But every time I play this game, and trust me, I play it a lot, I can never remember where anything is. I'll be missing that one gem in some starting level, running around trying to remember where it is, but I can't because everything looks too similar. Yes, much like the crates in Crash, to 100% this, Spyro must get all the gems. But these fuckers are so small you'll miss them way more often. And to actually progress, you need, a variety of things for these balloonists to take you to the next world, either having a certain number of dragons, gems, or these dragon eggs stolen by thieves. While Spyro is great to control, some things make you go, huh? Like a useless barrel roll. Even his glide can be unreliable sometimes. If you're not standing at the absolute edge of some platforms, you will die, so you better stock up on lives. And then there are the boss battles, and that's in quotes because they're barely bosses and barely battles. It's pretty much just a really short stage that eventually you come to a big guy that you flame a couple times and then you're done. But by far, the thing I hate the most in any Spyro game are the speedway stages. See, Spyro drinks some Red Bull and got these wings, so he can fly around these special levels called speedways, and they are so unfair. To clear them, you have to do several tasks flying through checkpoints or flaming stuff all in one run. The problem is they barely give you enough time to do it, so on your first go around you have to basically spend 4 or 5 tries trying to figure out a perfect route, and even then you'll most likely fail it again and again and again. It's not satisfying because it feels like it was designed like this to get more hours out of a game instead of to be an actual challenge. But you know what, despite my bitching, I still like this game. It's still fun to control and has a lot of character and charm to it. Unlike Crash 1, where I wouldn't recommend it at all to be played today due to its artificial difficulty and because of its controls and level design, Spyro 1, I think, is still a pretty good game that anyone should play today. I mean, yeah, it's got issues like, a lot of games do from the past, it's just a product of the time. but I don't think it's a bad game. And of course a lot of people liked it as well, so that's why a little over a year later we got the sequel, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. Now once again, the sequel to the PS1 mascot platformer is the one that improves everything and adds some staples that will continue in the series. One is the hover, one of the best things added. Now pressing triangle when gliding gives you a little hover at the end of your glide, letting you get a little extra height and helps you make jumps that you couldn't before. This is a big deal. It's such a small adjustment, but it makes the game so much more playable. It's like the spin dash in Sonic. No game should be without it. I also like how the main collectible now are these talismans, which you get for just getting to the end of the level. And if you want, you can get the other ones, the orbs. These aren't necessary to get to the last boss. Usually you get them by just playing some kind of minigame to help break the pace. So there's enough just to beat the game, but even more for completionists, and I love that kind of design. And the levels in this one are far superior. What were once boring polygons now have some personality. When entering them, you get a cutscene to show what Ripto's minions are doing, they ask you for your help, and then after beating it and you're getting thanks from them, in an outro cutscene it shows you what impact you had. Not only does this add more charm to the levels, but it also gives you, the player, motivation to help them out, and all the more satisfaction when beating a level. Now you're not just collecting some shit, you're helping people. Yeah, you had the dragons in the last game, but they were glorified tips and tricks. Here I feel like I'm actually going to other worlds helping them out. I even like the new side characters that help Spyro throughout his journey, like Allura, who's a fawn, you dork, Hunter, the cocky and idiotic pussy, and the Professor. I don't really know what his personality is. And then there's the biggest bastard, so cheap and money-grubbing Mr. Krabs wishes he was this degenerate. Moneybags. This Winnie the shit motherfucker knows you're trying to stop an evil dictator, but he doesn't care, he just wants your money, and you need to pay him to progress and get power-ups. It's not too bad if you're going around collecting everything, but hopefully Insomniac keeps this in check and doesn't go too crazy with this whole gatekeeping you with money requirement thing, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on now, and now we have a great playing game with lots of character, and what ties it all together is a great soundtrack, one of the best PS1 soundtracks ever. Music in 1 wasn't worth mentioning, it's not bad, it's just more atmospheric. The soundtrack in Spyro 2 though fits everything, it really feels like you're in this magical cartoony land. And yeah, I bet you Spyro heads were screaming at your screen that I haven't said that the music in this game was done by the drummer for the Police, Stuart Copeland. So, I guess you could say, that's the sound of the Police. Speaking of sound, Spyro 2 actually means a lot to me personally because it was actually the first time for video games where I started recognizing sound design. I'm not just talking about the music, I'm talking about the effects of everything. Like the feeling of satisfaction when it comes to collecting gems, beating enemies, breathing fire, getting a talisman or other collectible. Even the menu sounds make navigating the pause screen feel so charming to me. Yeah, I'm going on a magical adventure adjusting the vibration. This game even has actual boss battles now with health bars and bullshit hitboxes like a real retro video game. Now there's one thing I don't like about this game, it'd be the villain Ripto. Never understood this guy and why he keeps coming back. He's just a whiny nerd, not even in a funny way. Just fuck him. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of a problem with Spyro in general. There's not really a great villain character, you know? There's no evil doctor or evil wizard or some kind of constant evil force. You get some different asshole every time, which means that it can be very hit or miss. And personally, I think Ripto is a big miss to me. Again, don't really care for the fact that he keeps coming back. But I'd say for Spyro 2, I don't really have many negatives for this game. Much like Crash 2, Spyro 2 took all my complaints and improved them even more. Well, okay, still fuck the speedways, but other than that, I have no issues. And then once again, in a little under a year, Insomniac gave us the final PS1 Spyro game, Spyro Year of the Dragon. It's alright. Much like Crash 2 to 3, Spyro 3 plays exactly the same, little to no difference as the last one. Now you're trying to get back all the dragon eggs stolen by the sorceress, or as I call her, Barney's mother-in-law. Or maybe wife? Wait a minute. You're also dealing with the sorceress' apprentice, Bianca.
I've hidden them in places you'll never find in 1,000 years.
Now, Crash 3 I consider to be one of my favorite games of all time for just improving on the improvements. Spyro 3, I like it, but 2 snuffs it out a bit more for me. Now 3 does do a lot of things I like introducing new playable characters to help break up the Spyro gameplay with new ways to play. You got Sheila, the kangaroo, having more levels based on verticality, Sergeant Bird, the penguin, whose flying levels needed some more time in the oven, and Agent 9 has good stage music. Hey everyone, future Brian here, editing this in your past. It has come to my attention while editing this that I apparently forgot all about Bentley, the Yeti, and his slow and terrible stages, and of course that, you know, boxing thing everyone always brings up because it sucks. I'm absolutely devastated that I forgot to mention such an iconic thing from the Spyro games. I don't know how we can move forward from this, but I hope we can, and I think the first steps is to completely ignore this because I don't care. I also think Spyro 3 just has the best levels, not just in terms of design, but also the characters, with some returning from Spyro 2, like Moneybags, yay! I also like how there's just one main collectible as well, being dragon eggs. And you got gems, of course, but it's simplified to focus on just the eggs. There's no orbs or some extra superfluous thing. And with that, the only goal, again, is just to make it to the end of a stage to help out the people of the world. Collecting is just for completion. Also, the music is some of the best in the franchise. There are some fucking bangers in this thing. But it's just, for me, I feel like some personality is lost, where before we had intro and ending cutscenes and levels, and they took them out for this one for some reason. Now, instead of it feeling like you're actually helping out people, it's just you show up, they tell you about Rhinox, you make it to the end, and then they blow a balloon. Yeah, the other playable characters help you during the boss battles, but it makes me forget the other characters in the levels more, since they feel more like triggers in a game to me to get the collectible instead of, you know, people in trouble I should help. Now, I realize that's just a me thing. I know most people probably don't notice or even care about those things, but to me, since Spyro plays mostly the same in this game to 2, I'd just rather play 2 because it hits that nostalgia boner a bit more for me. Oh wait, never mind. 3 has skateboarding, so I guess it is better. Now again, like the Crash video, I'm not here to go into these games in super ultra mega detail and show you everything. I didn't even play them for that long. I mean, I've beaten them so many times now, I don't really have to. I mean, I think this is the first time where I'm talking about a game series where there are actual videos of me on YouTube beating these games, in the remake anyway. Yeah, much like Crash, Spyro got a remake thanks to
Oh god, not them again.
and Toys for Bob. That's right, the people behind Crash 4 talk about it all being connected. And like Crash, if you want to play Spyro, I do recommend the Reunited trilogy. It's available on your console of choice. Honestly, I recommend even playing the original PS1 games if you are willing to shell out the money for a physical copy for some reason, or if you're just happy with emulation. I definitely think these are games you should check out at least one point in your life. Seriously, I doubt you'll have a bad time playing any of them. So after the PS1 days, guess who? Universal Interactive. That's right, they also own Spyro. And again, they just sort of fell out with Insomniac Games due to various reasons. And so Insomnia would split and go on to make the last surviving PS2 mascot, who I'll save for another day. And I don't know, they started making some games based on some stupid comic book bullshit, whatever, who cares. The point is, much like his marsupial counterpart, Spyro was a free agent. And Universal got one of these two studios to develop Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly. I'm not exactly sure which one. I've never actually played this game before this video, mainly because literally everyone I've ever talked to about it told me it was bad. And I'm going to do something a bit different here. I'm just going to play the intro cutscene to this game in full, in its entirety, with 0 edits. Just so you know, the sound is desynced for some reason. It's not anything wrong with the capture or the recording. It was like this when I was actually playing the game.
Wow!
It's just a float, you scaredy cat.
They sure do look happy, don't they, Spyro?
Well, it's not every day that a dragon gets his dragonfly. Right, Sparks.
So, we meet again, little dragon. I'm back, and I'm stronger than ever.
Who are you calling little, Shorty? Nobody invited you. This is an invitation-only party.
Very clever, dragon. You know, you should join me. We would make a great team.
What do you want this time, Ripto?
Oh, yeah. What do we want this time, boss?
You're not hired for your brains, you dinosaurian landmass! Keep thinking, and I will send you back to the place I found you, unemployed in Molten Crater, begging for work from nasty North. Now, back to what I was saying. Well, what do I want this time? I'm glad that you asked, Purple Pest. and I will be happy to demonstrate. Since I've had enough to do with dragons, I thought, perhaps, dragonflies. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen, but you see, without the power of dragonflies, the dragons are nothing. Soon the dragon homelands will be mine.
Spyro, that little lizard totally stole all the dragonflies. Even Sparks is gone.
Spyro, Hunter, don't worry. I think I know where to start. Follow me.
And you might be wondering, what reason would he have for us to watch that cutscene? There was no reason. I had to sit through it, so you did too. The actual game is honestly pretty mid, and I know exactly why, because it's a PS2 game that is designed like the PS1 Spyro games. Again, sounding familiar? As you saw during that cutscene, even the models are still based on that blocky PS1 design, so it's standard stuff, collecting shit, flying, glitching. Actually, being such an obviously unfinished game, I barely ran into any glitches or problems. And there is a reason for that, but I'll get to it. Honestly, I think the controls are fine. I mean, yeah, Spyro doesn't feel as good as the PS1 games, but I never had a problem with jumps or hitting enemies. The only thing I really didn't like is that this game introduces other breath attacks, and to collect the big collectibles in this one, which are dragonflies, you have to catch them using your bubble breath. And I swear, no matter how much I tried, how much I struggled, I could not catch these little bastards. It's so fucking annoying. Why do I have to do this kind of shit just to get a collectible? It should just be sitting there for me to collect. Also, the load times. Jeez, you thought Wrath of Cortex was long? Try this. It feels like it takes forever. But yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts on Enter the Dragonfly. It's okay. Now hold on there, you say. How can you say this game is okay? It's so buggy and it's shit and it's bad? Well, I would probably think that too, but I only managed to play Enter the Dragonfly for pretty much an hour, and it was not by choice. See, upon trying to exit the first stage, which I stayed in to get everything because yes, I'm one of those people, I was presented with one of those long loading screens I mentioned. The problem was, it never stopped loading. So I was like, okay, whatever, the game just takes a long time. So I left the room to go do something else, and when I came back, it was still loading. I was gone for 10 minutes. So yeah, obviously the game crashed, so I just hit the restart button, and apparently it did not save my game. So I made the very difficult choice to stop playing the game. And it was an important decision because I think with this happening, fate led me here, that I am now the only person on the planet, no, maybe the entire universe, that has played Spyro Enter the Dragonfly and came out with a non-negative opinion about it. Because I was only able to play it for an hour. It's a heavy cross to bear, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice. And yeah, since no one else decided to enter the Dragonfly at the time, Universal decided to get Eurocom again, the makers of Twak, to make the next Spyro game, Spyro: A Hero's Tale. And look, can I be real about it though? Can I be real about it though? Y'all don't know what the fuck you were talking about. Spyro: The Hero's Tale is a good game. No, it's a great game. In fact, Hero's Tale is actually my favorite Spyro game. Okay, no, I did not say this is better than the classic games. It's just my favorite. Now, if you're unaware of the kind of stuff I like, I know there's a difference between what's good and what I like. Also, look, it's a nearly 20-year-old game that people with lives don't actually care about, including me, because it's ultimately meaningless to waste any brain power or to have any sort of meaningful debate about a form of entertainment about a purple dragon, because there are better things to waste that brain stuff on, like family, friends, your job, your partner, instead of me sitting here for like 5 minutes telling you why I think this game is fun, since we all know out of all the people watching this, only 10% of you are actually listening to the things I say, while the rest of you are either apathetic or are already so livid about how I said this game was my favorite or talk some shit about some other game or some other thing thing in a video that you've already stopped trying to even understand where I'm coming from and instead choose to hate me just because I don't like the thing from your childhood, and you take that as a personal attack because you think your life is worse than it actually is and need some place to vent. And since I'm here saying something negative, your brain convinces itself it's okay to be even more negative toward me because you automatically assume I must be some angry, miserable fuck because I am not spouting positivity all the time, therefore justifying your own actions and making everything I just said make no sense. And boy is this game fun. One reason I like it is the story. I still don't care about it, but I like how everyone in the game also doesn't care about it either. Also, in my opinion, besides the remakes, of course, this is the best looking Spyro game ever. The levels, the character models, well, not all of them look great, but especially the animation. Major props to the animation team. It's so well done. Have you paid attention to this? Even without dialogue, you can tell each character's personality, what they're thinking in that moment, what they're doing, just by body language alone. I mean, look, they even bothered to give individual animation to Moneybags in this small hologram thing you can barely see. They gave unique animation to this not even actual cutscene that you can barely fucking see. This is an amount of animation effort that some modern games today with 10 times the budget and team don't even attempt to try anymore. The controls themselves are fine, they're not the best, they're not the worst, but Spyro does control very well, and yes, the hover might be gone, but his new double jump makes up for it. I also just love collecting things in this game, like the Dragon Eggs and Light Gems. Look, you just get them. Yeah, animations and shit, it's fun and adds personality, but I love that you just get it and move on. It keeps the momentum going. Also, thank God, no longer do you have to worry about missing that one gem in that one stage that eludes you, as gems are simply currency now for Moneybags Shop. It's all about the big collectibles. But uh-oh, what's this? A speedway? Great. Actually, I like the speedways in this game. Making them Sergeant Bird levels, now giving you homing rockets, bombs, and best of all, plenty of time to look around the stage and get your bearings. Oh my god. And if you still want that challenge, you can play it again at a harder difficulty to get more collectibles. You can do that with every minigame in this. Who doesn't love a challenging turret section? That was half sarcasm. And all you babies that keep complaining, shut up. The Blink the Mole sections are not that bad. Yeah, they're slower and more about exploring, but what's wrong with that? This is Spyro, not Sonic. It's not about going fast. Besides, all these side games and sections are completely skippable, only for completion, so who cares? If you don't like them, you don't have to do them. Oh my god, and the music? Fuck your sister, the music! Really, the only negative thing I have to say about it is it's just a Spyro game, you know, it's not really anything special. Now, yeah, of course, it's my favorite one, but, you know, after, what, several games at this point, it doesn't really add any new fancy mechanic or gimmick or whatever to separate it from the last couple games. I mean, yeah, there are the different breath attacks, but the last game did that. Is that really going to be the best thing we have to mix up Spyro gameplay, just giving him a different flavor of breath mint every time? If so, they must be pretty starved for ideas. And yeah, that's all the original Spyro games on console. Yeah, that's it. There's just the PS1 trilogy, Enter the Dragonfly, and Hero's Tale. Yeah, unlike his contemporaries, Spyro didn't really get any spin-off titles at all. Everything's pretty much the same, a collectathon platformer game, sort of, and they're all essentially canon. And that goes especially for the Game Boy Advance games. Yes, even Spyro was assimilated into the Disney of video games, like all his contemporaries. And not only did he have 4 games for the Game Boy Advance, but he also had a DS game. So let's look at them, starting with Spyro Season of Ice. It sucks. There's one word to describe Season of Ice. Repetition. Every level is the same. The main thing you do is kill all the Rhinox in a stage, and then flame some random crap and maybe some other mission that's super fucking annoying. All of this is done to free the fairies, who are the main collectible for this game. They were trapped in ice by... I have no comment. Also, worst speedways ever, end of conversation. Oh, but don't you worry, the problems in Season of Ice just keep piling up. The camera is so zoomed in, you can't charge around freely or risk running into something, or you run off the edge of a stage, or worst of all, just die by touching the corner of water. Like, come on, I dipped my toe in it and I died? Didn't you learn to swim in the second game? This game also needs a map desperately because everything looks the fucking same. I don't know where anything is. So if you're missing that one gem you need to get completion, get fucked trying to find it. Son of a bitch! And when you die in the game, it resets all the objectives you were in the middle of completing in a stage. You have to start over from the very beginning of the stage, only saving your gem and fairy count. Fuck that. Also, for some reason, after completing an objective, the game just teleports you to a random location to get the fairy, but now I don't know where the fuck I am. It all looks the same. Where was I? Fuck! Also, I'll admit this is a more personal thing, and while I give credit they went for this isometric kind of view, I hate it. I am not a fan of isometric platformers. Holding the D-pad like this for hours is annoying. I hate it. Not to mention for a platformer, I can't gauge how high anything is, so I glide to another spot thinking I'll land on it, but it turns out it's 3 stories tall. Another thing that fried my egg was catching these thieves. In this game, it's like they're programmed to never get caught unless you know the exact route they take, and you make no mistakes. Oh, come on, how did... yeah, I don't like Season of Ice. In fact, I hate this game so much, I own it twice. Yeah, once with the actual cartridge, and again on the Crash Huge Adventure Spyro Season of Ice double pack. Fun fact, me owning this game twice is one of the many reasons my parents consider me to be a disappointment. So after the Ice Age, I was dreading the sequel, Spyro 2 Season of Flame, since, you know, same game, same console, same developer. But to my surprise, Season of Flame is good. It's actually damn good. If you want an example of a game that improves by doing some minor changes, play Season of Ice and then play Season of Flame. Because there are so many quality of life choices that turned a turd into a golden turd. For one, the camera is zoomed out just slightly and the charge is a bit slower, so now you can move around at high speeds without worrying about dying or getting hit. The stages themselves are designed way better too, with a more distinct aesthetic that separates sections as well as having better objectives. Now they vary from world to world, have different minigames and side missions to vary up traversing them. Even Sheila and Agent 9 return with their own stages, Agent 9 having a side-scrolling shooter and Sheila a more methodical puzzle platformer. Also, come on, it's really funny seeing them fly through the sky after you do their levels. And there's nothing more terrifying than a flying T-posing monkey. The game also now has checkpoints too, and doesn't take away your progress in a stage when you die. And what's this? Oh, praise be to Yevon, a map! Not only telling you where you've been, but where you haven't, so you know where to explore next. Oh man, I think I'm gonna cry. Now don't get me wrong, while the game's better, it's still got a few problems. For one, getting the main collectible Fireflies in this game is like Enter the Dragonfly, where you have to use bubble breath. It's nowhere near as bad as there, but I hate the fact that I still have to do this. Just let me collect it. It's not fun having this extra step. Also, I still hate these isometric platformers, man. I mean, come on. My shadow is right over that platform. I really wish there was some way I could properly convey to you how much I hate holding the D-pad like this. But unfortunately, the English language or any form of communication is unable to express my dislike of the way these games want you to hold the directional pad. So in the most basic way I can say it so there is no confusion, fuck it. But none of that shit really mattered because I kept playing and I ended up honestly getting everything in the game, as a matter of fact. And to me, that's the mark of a good game, that despite my own personal and maybe some technical hangups like some lag, the overall gameplay and design is so well done. It didn't matter because it's still a fun-ass game. Honestly, it's probably one of the best Spyro games I've played, honestly, and if I was a kid back in 2000 whatever and I had this during a long car ride, I'd be pretty happy. But hey, now that I'm an adult, I can just play it while I'm driving. I'm just kidding, I'm not actually driving my car while I'm... Please step out of the vehicle, sir. So after that, you bet I was excited to try the third entry, Attack of the Rhinox. It's okay. Now it plays pretty much exactly like Season of Flame, with the main difference being this is now an open world game, in that there are interconnected locations that house the various collectibles. Unfortunately, I don't really like Attack of the Rhinox, but it's still okay, mainly because it plays like Season of Flame. Honestly, my main complaint with this game is that it feels so fucking tedious to play. Here's the basics of what you do. You go to a new land to collect the heart of that world, that's the main collectible. It's so you can stop, who is this guy again? So you go to that world, you talk to the keeper or whoever, and they're like, gee Spyro, we would help you fight Red or whoever the fuck, but I lost a bunch of other shit everywhere else, so go get it for me. So basically you have to wander around finding at least 8 different items scattered everywhere, and I mean everywhere. So your first visit to a new world, you do maybe like 3 things until you make it to the last world, where you have all the upgrades possible at that point, and then you backtrack through all of the worlds again that you were just in, so you can do the rest of the shit that was there now that you can do everything. And this way of designing it isn't bad. It's sort of Metroidvania-ish with the backtracking, but I don't like it here because it feels like going to a new world in general is such a waste of time. I'm only going in so I can be told I have to leave and go somewhere else first. And to me, that makes it feel like a giant fetch quest more than a big grand adventure. Go here, get this, get that. Oh, you can't go there, so I gotta go somewhere else. Look at this, there are these chests everywhere, and when I did this pretty mid Sergeant Bird mission, thinking I was getting a key for the chest, it gave me half a key. That's when I was like, okay, I see, I get you, game. You're just here to keep the kid busy in the back of the car while his parent is being searched by the police. But yeah, as far as the Spyro games on GBA, it seems like we did a pretty good run, you know? I mean, we had a bad game, but then we had a great game, and then an okay one, well, depending on who you ask. So, overall, a decent trilogy of games that hopefully won't be ruined by a jump cut. Yeah, you knew this was coming. There was Crash Purple, now we have Spyro Orange, the Cortex Conspiracy. What do you want me to say? You can almost take everything I said in the Crash video and just copy-paste it here. Well, I guess you can't, because somehow, despite being the same premise, with the same developers, on the same console, Spyro Orange is actually worse than Crash Purple. In Crash Purple, I do think the minigames get repetitive, but they offer some type of variety. Spyro, you get the amazing variety of an auto-scroller, an auto-scroller, an auto-scroller, an auto-scroller. Oh, of course, how can I forget? There's also an auto-scroller. Sorry, it slipped my mind. When traversing to the next game, it's just a side-scroller, and this Spyro in this game cannot glide. What is this fuckness? It's like if Crash couldn't spin in his game, like why even have the wings at all? Just take them off, would have saved the sprite animator some time. They even recycle some games from the Crash ones. Seriously, you had to do that? And let's not forget the amazing windscreen you get for beating a minigame every single time. So yeah, Spyro's days on the GBA were dead, much like the GBA itself when the DS came out. And so with new technology, oh wait, hang on, I gotta get my DS. Sir, why was there a Nintendo DS up your ass? Because Spyro's Shadow Legacy is shit. Now I want you to remember before you see this game, remember, there aren't really spin-offs in Spyro, they're all essentially main games. This game, in fact, is a sequel to A Hero's Tale. This is an official, canon, main series game. Oh, if you're wondering, the cop let me go after he saw me shit the DS. I'll give you that warning, because so far, every Spyro game, besides one, has been a collectathon platformer. This is an RPG, so I was immediately worried. At first you think, well, okay, it might be weird, but you know what? There are some pretty good RPGs on the DS, especially ones based on other properties. And then I remembered all the reasons I drink. Okay, well, since this is an RPG, I guess I'll talk about the story. There is one. The game moves too slow. Even charging, it feels like an eternity to get anywhere. The combat is ass. You just nudge things to death, annoy them so much by poking them they fall over and die. The game also looks bad. These 3D models over sort of 3D and sort of 2D backgrounds, honestly, it kind of reminds me of Sonic Chronicles, and that's not a good thing. Some cutscenes are just these PNG models with some text. The presentation of this game is awful. I also ran into a few glitches and some bullshit deaths, but I guess that's a staple of Spyro at this point. Another staple of the Spyro games, how repetitive every area is. You go to the Shadow Realm to fight a bunch of enemies to free that realm's inhabitants, and you do that in every level. The exact same nudging. Yeah, I don't really want to keep playing this. This game sucks. It's one of the worst RPGs I've ever played, and definitely the worst Spyro game ever, in my opinion. Sticking this game up my ass was an insult to assholes everywhere. So yeah, in a post-Insomniac world with most of the Spyro games being bad or people just not realizing when it's actually good, like Crash, Spyro got a major rehaul in the late 2000s. But his redesign was more predictable. So there's 3 more games I'm talking about. First is the Legend of Spyro, A New Beginning, and what a lackluster beginning it is. First thing I noticed was the voice cast. It had some pretty big celebrities for the time. They got Elijah Wood to voice Spyro for some reason. Don't know how much crossover Lord of the Rings and Spyro fans have. Also, Gary Oldman narrates. Don't know how much crossover the Fifth Element and Spyro fans have either. Also, David Spade voices Sparks, and let me tell you, listening to him is like watching an Adam Sandler movie. A bad one.
If you must know, certain dragons have the ability to see visions. The thoughts, memories, and dreams of others.
Is that so? Okay, what am I thinking now? What am I thinking now? Okay, now.
And look, man, if I didn't give a shit about the story before, I sure as hell don't care when they try to make it all epic and grand. I might be into it, but it's the most generic Chosen One fantasy story ever. You don't think the story is generic? The big, evil bad guy in this series, the one you fight through all 3 games and is constantly mentioned, he's called the Dark Master. Do I even need to make any joke or comment about that? The name says it all. Now, the darker story may not do much, but the game sure is darker. Who forgot to turn on the lights? And before you say anything, no, there was no brightness setting. I checked. They probably had to cut back on the lighting because they spent all their money on the voice cast, and I guess the gameplay suffered from it too because it's average at best. Spyro is no longer a collectathon platformer, it's now a standard character action hack and slash game. It was the style at the time. Combos they're just not fun, man. There's not enough variety, and the animations are not amazing or cool enough that make me want to pull off any sick looking combos. Even when the game did open up to new stuff, it, again, wasn't cool looking or added any new routes or crazy stuff that made me go, wow, you can do that? I mean, it's just standard stuff you'd expect at a game like this, like air combos, whoa, a dragon fighting in the air, amazing. Enemy variety, what's that? You'll get different colors of monkeys and you'll like it. Yeah, sorry, not sorry, this game bored me to death. I could barely keep playing it. Within the few hours I played, I think I gave it a fair enough chance, but the same boring enemies, the same boring combos, same boring story, I just don't care, man. So you bet I was not excited for the sequel, Eternal Night. I decided to play the Wii version because it's easy to emulate and I'm not paying for this game. Now, unfortunately for you, but great for me writing this, I have nothing to say. Because this is literally the same game as the last one, just with motion controls now. Seriously, the graphics are the same, the combat is the same fucking monkeys. The only difference I noticed is that Sparks is now voiced by an actual voice actor, Billy West, who does give the best Sparks performance in this trilogy, I'll admit.
Besides, Ignitus said you have to wait till your powers return, because you're weak.
Too bad the writing still sucks. I mean, yeah, there's nothing for me to add. All my complaints are the same. I will comment on the music, I guess. It doesn't fit at all to me. I mean, listen to this. Now, yes, it's good, but what is this? God of War? No, it's Spyro, a story about Barney's hellspawn. The music should not sound like Lord of the fucking Ring. Oh, right. Okay, the final game we're talking about today, the last game in the Legend series, Dawn of the Dragon. Now, you might think, okay, is this just the same game again? No, believe it or not, this one is actually pretty different. And dare I say, it's the best of the Legends trilogy? That's not really a big accomplishment, don't get too excited. Hey, don't worry, I know the main thing you want to know right off the bat. Who's voicing Sparks this time? And I really think it's something only me and a few other people will actually find funny, that Sparks is voiced by Wayne Brady.
Hey, Spyro! Man, you're alive!
Sparks! It's good to see you too. You okay?
You know, a little stiff. Voice keeps changing, but I'm good.
Oh, it's Wayne Brady, son!
So this game adds some things desperately needed in the last two. A block and dodge button. Oh my god, how was this not here before? This is necessary in these kinds of games. Yeah, granted, I didn't play through the last two, so I don't know, maybe they showed up eventually, but it should be there in the beginning, or early on at least. Combos are still meh, but now there is a complete co-op mechanic, which if I had friends, it would probably be fun, I guess. I do wish Spyro and new character Cinder controlled a bit differently, rather than just having different breath attacks. Man, they really couldn't come up with anything different. And holy shit, Spyro can actually fly? You can fly in a Spyro game? Now that I think about it, how did it take 10 years and 14 games for us to finally get to the point where in the game where we play as a fucking dragon, we have the ability to freely fly anywhere? But I mean, yeah, the game ultimately still is just okay, whatever. Look, much like the Crash reboots, you can put the name Spyro on it, you can make him purple, but at the end of the day, this is not Spyro to me. It's just a generic character action game called Spyro. I'm sure those who grew up with this game think that with the originals, you know, hashtag not my Spyro, it goes both ways. But ultimately, it's just not the kind of Spyro game I want to play, so I don't really care. Now, yes, this is the last Spyro game I'm talking about, and I know a lot of you are going to be like, why aren't you talking about Skylander, Spyro's Adventure? Because I don't want to. That's it, that's all the Spyro games. Yeah, after the Reignited trilogy, which, as of this video, released about 5 years ago, there's been no news or inkling of
how is Blizzard doing? Bad, okay.
Yes, Own Spyro as well, is even doing anything with this franchise. Hopefully with Crash's resurgence into the modern gaming world, we can only dream that Spyro isn't far behind. It does kind of suck though that since the Reignited trilogy basically we have had nothing. I think maybe they made another Skylanders in between then. I really don't care. But hey, until a new Spyro game comes out, if there even is one, we do have some pretty good games that we can always go back to if we ever want that fix of that purple goodness. And then the rest. Now sure, Crash and Spyro were pretty big as far as PS1 icons though. However, I think there's one more we still need to talk about. One that I think, even at one point in their career, surpassed Crash and Spyro, and maybe even some other video game mascots, and one that's actually still kinda sorta relevant today. That's right, next time for the finale of this PS1 Icons series or whatever it is, we'll be taking a look at the Tomb Raider games. And stay tuned for it because it's gonna be a little different than the furries. Until then, take us out, Wayne Brady.
It's no use.
Well, maybe if we try twisting it.
Twist what? It's magic.
Is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?